Good evening. This is Quintus Curtius, and welcome back to the podcast. It's been a while since my last podcast, and in this one I wanted to talk about a subject that sometimes comes to mind, and I'll approach it through a maxim that I remember from Seneca, the Roman philosopher Seneca. In one of his letters, he says, the precise quote I could look up, I suppose, but the gist of it is that he says, in the same field, an ox looks for grass, a dog looks for a rabbit, and a stork looks for a lizard. In the same field. Now, of course, what does this mean? Well, of course, it's an analogy, and what he's trying to convey is that every creature is so differentiated based on its own proclivities, its own needs, its own requirements, that they see the world in different ways. Each creature sees the world in its own lens, through its own lens. The ox or the bull is concerned with grass. The dog is concerned with maybe catching a rabbit, and the stork wants its little lizards. And each of these creatures can come to their different conclusions overlooking the same field. When presented with the very same field in their vision, each one has its own desires, as it has been so configured by nature to want these things. And so we can apply this analogy, I think, to every single person, to every man, every woman. Each person is going to see the world through his or her own lens. And you can make headway to some extent to try to convince people of things that you want to persuade them of. But I think you will eventually find that our powers of persuasion are probably more limited than we like to believe. And in many cases, I would argue that what we think is persuasion is simply a way of opening a door or making a suggestion to someone that was already predisposed to think in a certain way. You're not so much winning them over as you are pointing them in the direction that they already intended to go in. And this is something that I've observed, just through, 25 years, I guess, of practicing law, dealing with clients, dealing with people, is that, you can only do so much. You can only lead the horse to water in most cases. They have to want to go that extra mile. They have to want to go that extra step. And some do. Some actually do. Some are willing to change. Some are willing to correct their problems. Some are willing to solve problems, to get a fresh start, to move in a new direction. Others only say they want to do that. Others only say they want to do that. But when confronted with the cost of making certain changes, they shrink. They shrink away from that path. They are unwilling to adopt that path. And some, the hopeless cases, flat out just don't want to do anything. They just want to blame everyone else for their problems. They want to blame people. They want to finger point. They want to wallow in their own misfortune, which in many cases they themselves helped create. And it's a very interesting dynamic because in a job like mine, you develop a very, very attuned detector for bullshit, frankly, for lack of a better word, for nonsense. you begin to see the difference between stated intentions and actual intentions. And you see on a first-hand basis just how capacious the human mind is in its ability to delude itself. This large capacity that the human mind has for self-delusion, it's really remarkable in many ways, because it seems to even override the instinct for self-preservation. And what I mean by that is there are people who will actually choose a self-destructive path, even when presented with the solution in front of them about how to get out of the problem. They will actually choose to self-sabotage. They will choose the self-destructive path. They will choose the path of misfortune. And you never really get used to it. People, it's the one thing that's very difficult for me to get used to. When I first became a lawyer, I heard all these stories about, oh, well, you're going to take it home with you and you're going to get stressed out and you're going to get this and that. And I never found myself stressed out or troubled by the subject matter, or taking work home with me and being haunted by types of cases and things like that. The one thing that did disturb me and still does is this tendency that some people have to not want to be helped. It's truly remarkable. And it points to something deeper in the psyche. It points to something deeper and darker in the human psyche, I think. And that is that self-destruction is a real thing. It's a real urge. There are some people that really do not want to be helped. They really do not want to fix problems. They prefer to live a life of chaos and drama and stress and pain, either out of the synapses in their brain have fired on these types of impulses for so long that they don't know any better, or simply out of an inability, I should say, to change the trajectory of their lives. So it really is remarkable, and I think this is something that not many people are privileged to see firsthand. And I think I count myself privileged in a way to be able to observe this type of psychological dynamic at firsthand, because it's proven to be very, very helpful and useful for me in my dealings with people just on a day-to-day basis, friends, family, acquaintances, things like that. Because you really see that there's a very large gap between what people say and what they really want. Not always. But when you do encounter those rare and special people who truly are sincere, who truly are well-meaning, who truly do want to improve themselves or want to approach life from a perspective of good faith, it really is a remarkable thing. They're rare. They are out there. You have to look for them. Well, maybe not look for them, because that's a very difficult thing. You can't really look for these types of things. You have to almost encounter them by accident. And when you do, you should appreciate them for what they are. It's never been more important, to really curate what goes into your mind, to really curate what types of sensory inputs go into your eyes and ears, and I just think there's so much pernicious stuff out there on the internet, everywhere, that you really have to be an expert now in curating. Because if you don't, it can very, very quickly drag you down. Very quickly drag you down. Just in the past few years, it seems to me just on YouTube, there's just you just see all these types of accounts: negative, downer, defeatist. The world is awful. Everything's terrible. People are mean. How horrible! It's just an unending parade of horribles. And and then there's a punchline, of course. It's, oh well, if you just buy my coaching package, I'll get you back up to speed. Okay, yeah, right, whatever, dude. So you've just got to be very, very careful about what goes into your senses, just as careful as what goes into your mouth, the type of food and drink that you consume. Because we are being deluged with stuff minute by minute, hour by hour, and it's not getting any better. So those were just some thoughts that I wanted to share that came to mind when I saw this quote by Seneca, which I'd seen a long time ago, and I had forgotten about it, and then it just came across my field of vision recently, and I thought I would offer a few comments about it. But on a side note, for the people out there who really are interested in solving problems and getting help or fixing things or getting out of a hole that they may have dug themselves in, the one piece of advice as a lawyer that I can say that I really wish people would take to heart is that they should not wait. They should not wait. As soon as you are starting to experience problems, financial problems, whatever, legal problem, whatever type of problem it may be, you've got to get help quickly. It's just like a doctor. The longer you wait, the more your options become curtailed. The longer you wait, the less flexibility you may have in crafting a solution. The numbers get too big, the arrearages get too big, people start to mentally check out. So that's the one piece of advice that I would impart. And I know it's easy to say, but it is certainly is not easy to practice, because people have pride, people have delusional tendencies, especially when things are starting to go bad. They say to themselves, I can fix it, I can do this, I can do that, I'm going to do this, I'm going to move this around, I'm going to move that around. And very often, it doesn't work out that way. So I'll just leave that thought out there. So enjoy your weekend. Get out there, keep crunching, and until next time.